Hey everybody, welcome to Obsessive Audio. Eric here, and we have some FET compression mania, madness, and mayhem today. What am I talking about? Pulsar Audio, the French company, have just released their long-awaited and long under development 1178 FET compressor, which they are dubbing the most versatile FET compressor. And after playing with this thing for a while and looking at what it has to offer in terms of both tone and features, I am tending to have to agree with them on this one. Now, the 1178 is a stereo version, almost version of the very classic 1176 compressor that was made by UREI company. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I believed that it's not pronounced Ure or Uri or Uri, but it is pronounced UREI or UREI at the very worst. That's because it stands for United Recording Electronics Industries. Now, that company, alongside Teletronics, United Western, United Recording Corp., and Universal Audio, are responsible for the equipment that I guess you could call the golden age of recording equipment. I mean, from the 60s, even earlier, but in this case, starting from the late 60s with this equipment in through the 70s, the 1176 FET sound became ubiquitous. I mean, it's on everything from that period and everything since. I mean, it's on everything. It works on everything, the FET sound. It works on drums. It works on guitar, on vocals, on bass, on piano. It's on my voice right now, by the way. I have put this plugin on my voice for this particular episode, so no big surprises at the end. Hey, guess what? I was using it the whole time. I'm using it right now. So let's just get that out of the way, shall we? Let's go back to Pulsar Audio's site and look at some of the products that they have released in the past. There we go. I hit the right button. This is the one we're talking about now, but last year they released... Where are you? Always the ever-changing site. Last year, they released Pulsar Smasher, which was a free compressor, FET-style compression. I believe this was their first foray into modeling this type of circuitry. And even back then, it was sounding pretty good, and especially for a free plugin. But oh man, what improvement a year makes. Now, their first product was a Viridian, based on the Manley Viridian, the Pulsar Mu. Sounds really good, was very well received. They also released a Benson Echo Rack, Echo unit, and all this stuff is great. Now, this company's been around for quite some time, and they have been not releasing a huge amount of stuff. You know, they're not one of these companies that puts a new plugin out every week and throws a bunch of stuff against the wall. It's like, no, this stuff is carefully developed. It's carefully thought out. They're working it to perfection, in my mind anyway. And coming to market when they do feel that they have something that's really ready and worthy of the consideration. They are a premium company. I did notice the list price last night, which was also a premium price at 143 euros, I believe. But fear not. Here's what I did last night. I signed up with them. I signed up for their newsletter, for their notifications. I may have started an account. I downloaded the demo, got it onto my computer. It's an iLock authorization. Let's get the right one here on this ever-changing website. There we go. So I got it all done. And then today in my email, I got a special price, 89 euros, and a voucher that was like another 20 or 30 euros off. So I believe I could get it now for like 59 or 69 euros. A lot better than the 134 or 143 that I saw last night. Anyway, that's sitting in the cart right now. And I have a feeling it's not going to be in the cart for very long. Again, now the sound, it's on so many albums. You're hearing this on records. Sometimes certain records in the 70s have the FET sound on like every instrument, because recording practices back then, they would compress things to tape. And part of that was getting hotter levels to get above that tape noise floor, and also because it sounded cool. And studios did not typically have a lot of compressors on hand. So if they had an FET compressor, if they had an 1176, there's a good chance that a classic album from that studio will have that compressor on like most of the tracks, on the drums, on the guitars, on the vocals. That's what they did. That's what they used. One difference between the 1178 and the classic 1176 is that it doesn't have the output transformer that the 1176 had. Therefore, it's a little cleaner. It's a little bit more transparent. I suppose we should say you hear more of the compression and a little bit less distortion, a little bit less harmonics. And that's actually a good thing because it means you can start putting it on buses or on mixes where the 1176 might have been a bit too much. And if you are missing that saturation and that grit, Pulsar have included a very comprehensive and great sounding saturation section here with 4 different types of saturation to choose from. And we'll get to that in a bit. Let's go through some of the controls here. You've got your input and output. And if you are familiar with the 1176, there is no threshold control. The way that you can control the compression level is just by cranking that input gain. As you crank it, you're going to get more compression and a hotter level, and then you'll turn the output down to compensate for that likely. And so that is how you do that. The attack and release are here. Again, peculiar to the 1176 and also the 1178 here, is that the fastest attack time and the fastest release time are all the way clockwise. So number 7 is the fastest, where that's counterintuitive to the way most compressors work, where the fastest would be down there. And then, but on this, if you have it at 0, those are the slowest times. So something to keep in mind, and also something I'm sure that many here will be familiar with already, as well as these ratios: 4-1, 8-1, 12-1, 20-1, and the infamous all buttons in, explode everything, seek and destroy mode, which is really cool, really distorted, and a great way to mess up your sound. Saturator section has tape, triode tube, warm, and clip modes, as well as a calibration knob, so you can get more or less of that distortion dialed in. It almost sounds like you are adjusting the headroom of the circuit when you do this. Power on and off, which is your bypass. A mix knob, which is a parallel knob. You can have your dry, untreated signal and mix it in with the compressed signal to get some parallel compression going on. Those techniques. You have link control. And this is the left, right, or mid-side mode. Left, right, or MS mode. That's great because you don't always see MS mode on these vintage modeling plugins. This one has it. Now we have the stereo link. We have stereo linked mode, stereo unlinked mode, and an invert mode. And that's curious. I sort of just saw this, and it's interesting. I guess that means if the left side gets loud, the right side reacts, and vice versa. I'm trying to think of situations where that might be cool or useful, maybe in mid-side mode, or maybe as an effect, I'm not sure, but that is something that I do look forward to playing with. Those are your standard controls, and right off the bat, this goes even a little bit further than a lot of models go. It's just this bottom section down here, but where you really get into the most versatile compressor ever part is up here with these additional controls. You have a sidechain equalizer. Of course, that will equalize the signal going into the detection circuit. Not the path you're hearing, but the path that the compressor is hearing. And you can EQ it on the spot. So let's say I have a vocal that's too sibilant. I can double click, and you can see right before you double click even, it shows you what kind of a curve. Here it's showing that if I double click here, it will give me a shelf. If I double click here, it's going to give me a band. And down here, it'll give me a low shelf. So let's say I wanted to remove some S's or some kind of harshness. Double click. And there we go. I have a band. It's easy as that. And I can move that around. If I'm trying to isolate in on those frequencies, I hit this sidechain monitor button, the headphone icon here, and then I'll be hearing just what the detector circuit is hearing. And I can get out of that. And likewise, if I wanted to add, say, a bass roll-off into the detector, just double-click down here. It gives me a shelf. Same with the treble. If I wanted to add some more treble, let some treble through the compression, I would do that. If I wanted to add, if I wanted the compressor to react more to some high frequencies, I would do something like that. And that is good stuff. So that is your sidechain, the internal sidechain, and the type of control you get there, but they didn't stop there. There's also an external sidechain, of course, so if you want to trigger it from something else, you can. This external sidechain also has a gain control, its own level control, which is really cool. I've only seen that a few times. And the fact that they've put that in with this classic sounding model is fantastic. Now, we also have a look ahead feature. Now, look ahead helps you with very fast attack times and release times. Much like your brick wall limiters, when you're trying to achieve gain reduction that quickly, it really helps to have a look ahead at the signal so that it can sort of figure out what it wants to do, how it's going to handle that move. And it will help you reduce distortion. It will help you reduce the riding of the, the low frequencies and that sort of thing. So putting that on will help if you've got very fast attack and release times, but it also does add latency. So it's going to add, they say, anywhere from 0 to 20 milliseconds of latency. And in that case, it's fine if you're mixing, if you're working on some music, making some sounds. But if you are using this live, or if you're trying to record and monitor through it or record it live where you want to hear it real time, then you may not want to be putting that additional latency into the chain. So that is your side chain section. Over here is your gain reduction metering section. And as you'll see later, it draws the waveform down here, and up here it shows the peak reduction as it's happening. And it's very fast, very responsive. It's got a very high refresh rate. And that will, that's a feature, again, that you will see on modern plugins, on modern compressors. But these compressors are usually the type that are very clean. It's a bit of a novelty to see this type of interface paired with a vintage model. And I think that is the name of the game. I think that's what they set out to do here, is that they would try to put all these cool features into a vintage model plugin. And it's also a great sounding vintage model, and we'll get to that as well. Just to complete the walkthrough here, on the top we have undo, redo. We have these arrows where you can scroll through the various presets. They have a drop-down menu with the presets that were made by very skilled engineers, and there are a lot to choose from. They make a good starting point. You just set it and adjust to taste. Save your preset, save as. Here's your A-B comparison feature here. So let's say I have something I like in A. I can hit this arrow that moves it over to B. Now that's loaded into B, so that's safe. I can go back to A, start making some changes. And let's say I want to compare that to what I had. I just click B. And I've got it all there. Oh, I like B better. All right, let's move back to A. And now they're both set. And the process repeats until you come up with the thing that you like. Here is the toggle view button. So you can actually look if you just wanted to see the hardware, or if you just wanted to see the side chain and the gain reduction information, or if you want to see both. And that will just cycle through the three different views. So that's what that does. And over here we have a drop-down menu with oversampling available, up to 8 times oversampling. Very helpful if you are using the saturation circuit and giving it considerable distortion or harmonics. It will help reduce aliasing. It will help reduce artifacts that you would not, that are exclusive to digital, that you wouldn't hear in the analog world. It'll pretty much take care of that, anything that would happen there. Also very helpful if you are using fast attack and release times. And I must add that it's pretty CPU efficient. I was finding that I could run quite a few instances of this on my computer, even with the oversampling, which goes to show that they've probably put some effort into optimizing the code as much as they could. And what else? I suppose that is the name of the game in terms of the controls. That's pretty much it. You do get some meters here. I believe it will show you the gain reduction and the loudness, and I didn't really take a deeper look at that, but you definitely get the gain reduction here in the middle. Let's just take a listen to it right away. Here we go. And I'm just going to play a raw sample, which has nothing on it right now. Nothing on. Some drums, some faders up, live drums. Now I'm going to turn it on. And you see here in the sidechain EQ, you get a spectrum meter here, a spectrum analyzer. That'll help if you're trying to find frequencies that you want to duck or vice versa, bring some stuff out. You got S's, they will show up here, and that'll help. Here's your gain reduction meter. You can see the waveform being drawn. You can see how much gain, and this thing does react very quickly, so watch as I increase the input gain. See that? I'm sure some of you are familiar with this as well, this kind of metering. It's on quite a few plugins now already, but again, those are the more modern plugins. It's not on a lot of vintage ones. Let's speed that up a bit, and let's crank it up, start getting some of that classic FET sound. Let's turn that down a bit. That's pretty grooving. And it'll go faster. You can go faster and louder with it. And you can get away with quite a bit before it starts to crunch out and distort on you. You might like that. Gives you even more room to go louder. But it is pretty distorted. I kind of tend to ease off just a little bit on that, but I don't mind a bit of that. Back to the beginning, let's hear with and without. With. Without. With. I mean, yeah, you know what? It's louder, so before the equal volume police come and get me, I will turn this down a bit. Off. On. All right, that's still louder, so. It's louder, but listen to it, right? I mean, here's the thing, and I will probably have to do a whole episode on this. On loudness, on RMS levels, on loudness units, lifts, on loudness metering, on volume matching. What are you trying to match, huh? The peak, the average, the loudness. Let's assume the loudness units, right? Okay, so let's say you match them. You match the loudness units, and you go, oh, well, the one without the compressor clearly sounds better. Yeah, but in your mix, you've got, that's like 6 dBs higher, and it's eating up all your headroom, and you're not going to be able to put it as loud, and it's not going to sit the way, and it's not going to sound like the record you're trying to emulate or whatever. I mean, yeah, I shouldn't get started on this right now, because I think it's great it's great that people are aware of the loudness wars, and they're aware that making things loud is a destructive process, and that you might be compromising your tone, but like that's also part of it, and it is only part of it. Peak efficiency is also your other part of it. As an engineer, you really should be able to sort of compensate for that mentally, get past the level differences, you know, sort of get past the Fletcher-Munson curves, you know, be situationally aware, hear the quality of the sound, no matter how loud or quiet it is, you know, that sort of stuff. But again, we will talk about that later, and I will just get back to a regularly scheduled program here. So that was at a 4-to-1 ratio, and already you could hear that there was like a lot of compression there. And so that's, and I've been digging 4-to-1 lately, actually, for drums, because believe it or not, there is such a thing as overcompressing drums, and you really can squash the life out of them. And I find the lower ratios, you can almost get away with more. You can go a bit further because that part that's being compressed is not as small sounding. Now, on the other hand, let's crank it up to 20, and there are some very cool effects to be had at 20-to-1 ratio here. Let's listen to this. And it's because that ratio is so high, you're going to hear it like suck down, and then you're going to hear that wow, that whoosh of the snare come right back up like an echo, and the cymbals will sound like they're reversed. Listen to that snare. Hear that? That reflex there? It's because that 20 to 1 is producing so much gain reduction. Wouldn't get as much gain reduction at 4. Although, that's not bad either. See what I mean though? Actually, 4 is a bit bigger. Whereas 20, and yes, you can readjust that, but 20 gives you a little bit more of that exaggerated swing. Cymbals sound like they're being reversed. Maybe you don't want to put cymbals under this type of compression. That's always possible to keep the cymbals separate and not subject them to that type of torture. But anyway, we are testing this unit here and not so much talking about mixing techniques or that sort of thing. So I will show you the all buttons in, smash and grab. Here we go. It's going to be like... While we're at it, let's try the linked and the unlinked. This is linked. This is reverse linked. Let's listen to that for a minute. Yeah, I can hear. It swooshes around from left to right in a really interesting way. I didn't know about this technique. Almost like an auto pan. I don't know if you got headphones on, but it's really cool. And then your standard unlinked and linked. Anyway, so hopefully that is a reasonable overview of the controls and the kinds of sounds that are classic and can be associated with the FET stuff. Now, what I actually did, I tried to find all of the 1176 compressors that I had, and then also a bunch of demo downloads, and I sort of made one big project that had everything in there with this loop. And just to hear, I wanted to hear how this Pulsar plugin compared to the other two, and if it did it sound better, did it sound worse, and you know, the jury might be out on that a little bit, but that might not even be the smartest hypothesis to go into it with. But we will get to that. That's the part that I'm talking about for the insanity here. But that will happen after a word from our sponsors. All right, so the plugins that we are going to take a look at. Actually, we're not going to really take a look at these plugins. I just want you to see that there are a lot of them, and these are all 1176 or FET style compressors. There's a Nebula, that's the Tim P U76, great. Here's the Pulsar, great. Oh, Purple from Plugin Alliance, awesome. Oh, T-Rex, Black 76. How old is this thing? Maybe 10, 15 years? I don't know. It's made a long time ago. It's still one of my favorites. It always works. And you know, maybe if you solo it side by side by the latest and greatest, there's this little new, in a mix, this thing, it just works. It doesn't matter what you put it on, what you use it on. It's great. Awesome. Okay, the CLA 76 Black, CLA 76 Bluey. Ooh, the Andrew Sheps Omni channel in the FET mode. We're back to PSP FET presser. Pretty good. Oh, Unison. Unison has FET modes in it. Sounds great. Very tight, in-your-face sounds. McDSP. Pretty excellent. A little bit bright model of the 1176 that I really like. If you want a little bit of high-end, that's a great one. Ooh, Viridian by Acoustica Audio. Not an 1176, but it's like an F700 or early FET compressor. earlier than the, I think even earlier than the Universal Audio, than the 176, which came before the 1176. Interesting sound in the same vein. Oh, Compex. Can't forget Compex. I hope I'm right about this. I hope I'm not wrong, but I believe Compex also, the ADR Compex also used the FET circuitry. And then there's some Nebula there. There's another Compex by plus 10 dB. And the idea here is that I'm not going to compare them and say, oh, this one sounds like this and this one sounds like that, like a shootout or something. I don't think that's a good way to go, especially like, first off, we're online. We're online and, I'm doing my best, at least so you can hear this at 250 kbps opus. You got to kind of upload higher quality to get that. But, a lot of times what you're hearing is 128 AAC. Lossy compression for the audio. So, so first off, you've got that. Then you've got the fact that, we're only human. And as much as we try to match all these different ones, it's just not going to. Like, I could take one knob and just, this one, this might be sounding the very best. And I move like one thing, maybe not even the volume. I just move one thing a little bit. Now it goes from the best to the worst, or vice versa. And it's just not, I don't think, it's not a good way to audition stuff. It's certainly not fair to the various manufacturers. And it's just not, I think the way that you audition plugins is you download them, you do the demo. Pulsar's given 14 days. I think you get 2 weeks to decide if you like the tone, to decide if you like the workflow, if it's worth it to you, if it's worth the price, all of that. We live in glorious times, and I think that's the way to go. So why do I have all these up here then if I don't want to A/B them or compare them? I don't want to A/B them, but I want to just cycle through them really quickly so that you can hear the similarity in the FET tone. You hear what they have in common. You can hear that there is a common characteristic to this style of compression that other styles of compression don't have. And when a model is half decent, which these are all, and some of them more than half decent, they're going to capture that essence. They're gonna get it, at least to a certain degree. My theory is as the modeling keeps getting better and better, it keeps getting closer and closer to the hardware. You can see different companies, and the difference won't even be in how good their modeling is. It's just going to be in how this one physical unit that they modeled sounds different from this other physical unit that the other company modeled. And maybe there'll be some more breakthroughs that way. I don't know. That's all philosophy or something, but listen to these. I'm going to cycle through, and I want you to hear kind of how close they are, how, yes, there are differences, but how they share the same characteristic. And I'm not going to even tell you which is which. I'm just going to cycle through. I'll stop talking for a minute and listen to this. And I could go on forever with that, but I think you get the idea that, some of them were a little brighter than others. Some of them were a bit louder than others. Some of them had more distortion. Some had less distortion. Some had a little bit more attack. Some, maybe a bit more kick drum. That sort of thing they all shared. They're all kind of playing in the same ballpark. Now, in terms of quality of tone, I don't know. What I would say about the Pulsar is that it's top shelf. It's definitely up there with the best, right? Like of the ones that I have and the ones that I've played with and tried and gotten to know over the years. It's very smooth. It's very easy to dial in. It's forgiving. If you start to get something a little gnarly, it actually lets, like, it's easy to tell. It's a clean enough emulation. It doesn't start off all grainy and weird and, like, so you don't know where. It starts off really good. Like, when you push it responds the way more physical hardware would. So you can get that if you want that. So yeah, I'd say it's top shelf, top 3, top 5. Is it the best? I don't know. What's the best? Nothing's the best. Right? In a given situation for a given track, this compressor will win. But you've changed the situation, put it on a different, then maybe the other one wins. And that's part of it, I think, is having a bunch of choices that you are familiar with. Choices that you are familiar with, not choices that you don't know. And certainly some of these are just demos that I downloaded, so I'm not claiming to be familiar with all of them. But certainly that first bunch that I showed you out of that, I am quite familiar with. So I was able to dial in similar tones. So hats off to Pulsar for the sound. And I would want to show you one thing about workflow really quickly. And we will do that after another message from our sponsors. All right, now here is the vocal's been treated, but it doesn't have the Pulsar on it.
My love, my love, my love, can't wait any longer, my love.
I mean, it's not bad. It's pretty good to go. I heard one thing about that "can't wait any longer." Did you hear that? It's like a consonant. It's like almost like a plosive on the consonant, kind of like too much of a.
My love, can't wait any longer. My love, can't wait any longer.
So let's turn on the compression alone without the side chain, and we'll see if that helps.
My love, can't wait any longer. My
fattens it up a little bit. Listen.
My love, can't wait
on.
any longer. My love.
Yeah, it's not really compressing all that much. So it's fattening it up, but I'm still hearing that consonant. Listen for you.
My love, can't wait any longer. Can't wait any longer.
All right, so what do you do about that? Enter the de-esser. Let's turn this side chain on. It's not really a de-esser. It's just you're adding that frequency and boosting it into the side chain in the hopes that the compressor will start reacting to it more and pull the whole sound down just a little bit when that plosive occurs. So let's go a little bit faster because we are trying to do that sort of thing. Let's go a bit faster here and maybe compress even a little bit less. I'm just sort of proactively doing it here. Let's listen to the side chain on its own. See if we can find that frequency.
Can't wait any. Can't.
Oh, there, yeah.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah, can't. It's good enough. So what was that? 2,800 hertz. So let's not kill it, but let's just put maybe 4 dBs. Just a little bit.
Can't wait.
Maybe a little bit more than that. Let's go up to 6. Let's do 6. Good enough.
Can't wait any longer.
So that's the side chain. So that's what we were listening to there. Just the side chain. So right there we were hearing what the compressor's hearing, not what the the main signal path is. Now let's take the side chain monitoring off. Let's listen without the side chain.
Can't wait any longer.
Now I'll put the side chain in.
Can't wait any longer.
Not bad. Now let me exaggerate it. You can hear the effect of it.
My love, my love, my love, can't wait any longer.
Hear it pulse down at that part.
My love, my love, my love, can't wait any longer.
Let's turn the side chain back up.
My love, my love, my love, Can't wait any longer.
It wasn't too bad on certain speakers, though. I did notice it, so sidechain back on. I'm not hearing it as much in these headphones.
Can't wait any longer,
But that's what it came up with, something like that in the speakers, so let's go with that. Anyway, so there's one example of how you can just quickly, maybe fix some things right away, quickly, without ever leaving the plugin. And that, I think, is pretty cool. Let's go to some guitars now, and let's check out something that can be done with electric guitars. Now, these are not highly, but they're distorted guitars. So let's go here. Let's turn it off. Let's keep it off for now. And let's listen to what we have here. Not bad, and as I'm sure you're aware, distorted guitars don't really have a lot of dynamics to begin with, so why would you want to put them through a compressor? Well, the compression gives you emotion, not emotion, I guess you could say emotion with an E, but emotion in terms of an envelope, a reaction that doesn't happen necessarily quickly, and even though the FET compressors are very capable of being quick, there is also an element that happens, over the course of seconds. It's emotion that can get added to the sound. And if you listen to the guitars, I'll play them off again, and then I'll turn it on. And what I want you to listen for is the attack, how it brings out the attack. And also at the end of a phrase, at the end of the note, so it kind of it comes up a little bit right at the end. Just the same way a Marshall cabinet gives you a little oof at the end. So the attack, the sustain, just listen to the whole. So here's without, and then I'll put it on with, and you just hear if you can hear that added motion, that added language really to the tone. Now here's with. Without. With. Without. With. Hearing those single notes that sustain, it kind of goes instead of decaying. Almost gets a bit. I'll exaggerate the compression a little bit. Without the compression, those notes don't. It's a little bit of vibrato, but the level doesn't come up. Listen to, with the compression on, the level does come up. So that is another cool thing that you can do with the guitars. Maybe I do have a bass example that I could show very quickly, but other than that, I think we are good on this. Without. With. Oh, you know what? We didn't look too much at the clipper here. There's tape. Trio. Trio's got a nice deepness to it. Warm. I can increase the gain there. It starts to fuzz out a lot. Or I can give it more headroom and less distortion. And clip, of course, which is probably the most obvious and obnoxious of the bunch. Did we do this on the drums? I don't even remember. Let's try it on the drums. That's really compressing a lot. Let's go to 4-to-1. Let's not go so crazy with it. All right. It's pretty good. A little faster. Hear that swell, that pump come up. All right, let's try the clipper on this. Tape. Big difference. So I'm going to make sure I have the oversampling on. We hear it at its best. More. Less. Triode. Ooh. Definitely a softer, less obtrusive distortion. Still doing something though. Off. On. Nice. Go to warm now. Listen to the lows and the mids. I'm gonna go from triode. Warm. This gives them kind of this punchy spot that's a little higher than the triode. Boom. That's some really nice compression or distortion. And finally, let's do clip. Oh yeah. Sounds great to me. It sounds really analog. I mean, I think they knocked it out of the park with this one. So hats off to Pulsar Audio. Go to Pulsar Audio's site, sign up for their newsletter and their notifications if you're interested in this one, because there's a good chance you get these special prices and the vouchers happening. I highly recommend it, especially if you don't have a high quality FET style compressor plugin, then this is probably a very good place to start. But like most of us, you probably already do. So maybe those workflow enhancements and those extra features, plus, just the general quality of the sound, the quality of the distortion, things worth considering. I mean, I think I've made my mind up already about this, but as always, don't take my word for it or some guy on the internet or some, compressed audio or whatever that I barely have any control over here anyway. But I did mention that the compressor's on my voice, so there's your big end reveal as well, in case some people were disappointed that I gave it away at the beginning. And what else? I can't think of anything. We've been here for just thank you for, if you're watching this far, just thank you. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment. I'm glad to hear from you and what you think about this plugin or anything else that we cover on the Obsessive Audio here. And I hope you found this useful. I hope you found this helpful. I'm just queuing up the good old exit screen here. live without a net. We will see you later next time. Thank you.